honor your father? Say that with me. Why honor your father? I want to focus on the purpose and the power of fathers. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you're watching this television program, and I'm glad you're listening to this CD, because I'm going to share with you one of the most important messages you have ever heard, and also to help you understand why God gave this very subtle command: honor your father. Let me begin with some sad news, tell you how important fathers really are. You will find some statistics and some reports that were given over the last few years of research on fathers, and Time magazine once again did a cover story on men and fathers for this special Father's Day season, and here's what their research discovered. Number one, and I quote from Time magazine, it says, more than virtually any factor, a biological father's presence in the family will determine a child's success and happiness. I want to repeat this. This is a secular research. This is not the Bible. This is what psychologists, psychiatrists, and behavioral scientists have studied, and this is their conclusion. More than virtually any other factor, a biological father's presence in the family will determine a child's success and happiness. Now, what comes to my mind right away is, what happens if two women get married? If this research is true, which from their studies they concluded is true, then a child in a home with two mothers is already in danger. Here's another quote from the research. 38% of all kids in the West now live without their biological father. That's an increase of 17.5% in 1960. In the Bahamas, it's probably higher, more like 40%. How important are fathers? The research also said this: more than half of today's children will spend at least part of their childhood without a father. Dr. Blankenhorn, in his research book, Fatherless America, the subtitle of his book is this: confronting our most urgent social problem. You think it would be drugs or AIDS or gangs, but he said, based on his studies, the most urgent social problem is this, quote, fatherlessness is the most destructive trend of our generation. Let me repeat that. Fatherlessness is the most destructive trend of our generation. These are scientific research results. In other words, fatherlessness is more destructive than drug abuse, teenage pregnancy, gang warfare, incest, corruption in government, corruption in religion. He said that there's nothing worse for a society than a fatherless society. Here's one I thought was very interesting. Time magazine quoted their research again. I quote, the absence of fathers is linked to most social nightmares, like from boys with guns to girls with babies. They link that to fatherlessness. In other words, if you get the fathers sorted out, you can solve the crime problem. We keep building jails to lock the fathers away than to invest in programs to produce better fathers. Here is another quote that's very depressing. Same research, Time magazine, the effects of fathers. 46% of all families with children headed by a single mother live below the poverty line, compared with 8% of those with two parents in the house. Can I just ask you to look at that for a couple of minutes? Just study it for a second. This is research now. It says 46% of all families with children headed by a single mother live below the poverty line, compared to 8% of those with two parents. This research is linking poverty not to lack of money, but to lack of the presence of a father. Could it be then that poverty is really a fatherhood problem? The research is showing that. And finally, they say that social studies show that only 43% of state prison inmates grew up with both, and that as a missing father is a better predictor of criminal activity than race or poverty. 43% of inmates in prison grew up without both parents in the house. Time magazine gave one last thought I thought you may want to remember. I quote, social scientists have made links between a father's absence and his child's likelihood of being a dropout, jobless, a drug addict, a suicide victim, mentally ill, or a target of sexual abuse, such as incest. end quote. The links between a father's absence and drug addiction and joblessness. It's amazing how much we don't understand God. You know what God does? God will give you a command and never explain why. God told us, for example, do not eat fish without scale. That's what he says. Scientists have proven that every kind of fish that doesn't have scale have the highest concentration of mercury, which gives you cancer. God never explains it. He just says, don't eat any fish without scale. Now they finally found out that fish like catfish, tuna, without scale, they collect mercury. Do you know mercury is also the source of insanity? The concentration of mercury in your brain could actually lead you to psychological disorder. And God says, don't eat that. He doesn't say because you'll be psychologically demented. That's why the Bible says obedience is better than arguing with God. Now, here God simply gives another command. God says, obey me. Watch this. Now, I want you to remember who God's talking to, why he's talking to them, and what is his objective. What is God doing? God told Abraham, come out to me, be separated, and out of you I will make a nation. Everybody say nation. So God's purpose for calling Abraham was not to begin a religion. God never gave Abraham a religion. God says, Abraham, come out, Genesis chapter 12, verse 1, and I will make of you a great nation, and you shall be blessed. And through the nation I will bring out of you, all the nations of the world will also be blessed through what I do with you. In other words, I am going to create a model nation for all other nations to emulate. So God says to Abraham, I will give you a seed, it shall become a nation, and this nation shall be the nation that all nations will be blessed by, because they will use this prototype to measure all other nations. We know what happened. Abraham had a son, the son had another son, and that son had 12 sons, and they were known as the nation of the tribes of Israel. They disobeyed God, and God sent them into famine, and they went into Egypt, and it ended up with them becoming slaves, and they were no longer a nation. They were stripped of everything. They had no name, no property, no pedigree, no self-concept, no self-worth. They were stripped. And after 430 years, God spoke to a man named Moses, and he said, okay, I'm going to try one more time. Go get them for me. Bring them out of Egypt for me. And the same instructions, take them to a place apart where it's just me and them, and I will make out of them a nation again. So God has 3 million people in the desert, and he's about to create a nation again. Listen carefully, please. God is about to build a country, a nation, a people. And he has Moses as the first prime minister, so to speak, to build his people. What is the first thing God did in building a nation? Write this down. The first foundation for nation building is law. Everybody say law. This is why it's important for you to understand the importance of law. Law creates culture. Say that with me. Law creates culture. Law creates society. Law creates community. What makes us a community is common laws. When we all agree to the same laws, we become a communion, a community, a community. So law produces a country. So God is giving Moses, the first lawgiver, instructions to build a country. Please hear me. What is God building? A country. So what you're about to read is not instructions for a religion. It's for national development. And the first command God gives Moses is these 10 laws. I'm not going to read all of them. I think I'll read the first one because that's very important. The first is always priority. God says, okay, the first law for this country is you shall have no other gods before me. In other words, a nation has to have a standard by which it measures right and wrong, good and bad, acceptable and unacceptable. There must be an ultimate authority. You begin with who is your God. This is why when a nation has more than one God, it becomes no longer a nation. There is civil strife, confusion. But then God includes in national development another law. Here's the law. He says, honor your father and your mother. Now wait a minute. God is building a country, and he's saying, if you're going to build a nation, you must honor your father and your mother. This is a national security issue. Oh, y'all hear me? If you follow God's laws, which are civic laws, cultural laws, penal laws, social laws, hygiene laws, you'll have a big, successful country. God said, Moses, I'm building a country. Tell everyone they must obey their father, their mother. They must honor their fathers and their mothers. This is national interest. When you disobey your father, you are against national development. When you curse your mother, you are an anti-social creature. Honor your father and your mother. Why? So that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. Because look, I'm going to create a country, I'm going to give you property, I'm going to give you land to live in, but you got to make sure you obey and honor your father and your mother. Ephesians 6, Paul repeats it this way. Paul says, honor your father and mother. He's quoting, of course, the law, which is the first commandment with a promise. He says that it may go well with you and that you may enjoy long life on the earth. Notice God ties living long to honoring your father and mother. Can I suggest to you then that the opposite of the promise is what? Can anyone figure that out? What's the promise? That your days may be long if you do what? Honor your father and mother. So what will kill you? Dishonoring your father and mother. Now, let me tell you how God thinks, okay? There are some things that God gives you as consequences. God would say, okay, if you do this, this will happen. If you do this, this will happen. And it doesn't always include death. But this one, he said it's better for you to be dead if you dishonor your father and mother. In other words, society will do better without you if you dishonor your father and your mother. You are a threat to the nation if you dishonor your father and mother. He says, I'd rather you be dead. Are you getting the point? I hope I shocked you this morning. Because we have not understood the national security involved in honoring your father and your mother. Write this down, important verse. Ephesians 6:13 says, children, now I wanted to bring this in quickly because there's some of you sitting there going, if you knew my father, you would never honor him. Well, I got some news for you. Listen carefully. The Bible distinguishes between a parent and a father and mother. Write it down, please. A parent is not normally equal to father and mother. They can be different. For example, some of you were brought up by your grandparent, but your father is still your father, and your mother is still your mother. Your grandmother can never be your mother, and your grandfather or your stepfather can never be your father. They can be your parent, but not your father. Everybody still with me? God is so smart. God never told us to love your father. He never says love your mother. He just simply says honor. Honor doesn't mean to love. Because some folks, the stuff they did or didn't do makes it hard for you to love them. He never told you to love them. He said honor your father, honor your mother. He didn't even say to obey your father. Because your father may be doing things you shouldn't do. Everybody still here? He didn't say obey your mother. Because your mother may be living a lifestyle that God disagrees with. Or your father may ask you to do some things that are completely against God's will, and God says you got to disobey him. He never told you to obey your father. But watch what he says in Ephesians 6. He says, children, obey who? Your parents. Now, a parent is different from a biological mother and father. Matter of fact, no one knows that more than the Bahamians. 78% of the babies born in our hospital, they say, are to unwed mothers. This is a national security issue. This is the destruction of our country. Because where there is no stable father in the house, you got yourself a criminal program producing criminals. Say that. Who's the parent? The parent, the word parent means to care for. It's from the word paternal. To care for, to give, to sauce, to nurture, to feed. And not just food, but emotional stability, instruction, relationship. It means discipline. It means giving that thing everything it needs to be sustained. That's parenting. And most of the time, you may be surprised, but fathers are not parents. Honor your father, but obey your parents. Hey boy, I'm your daddy. Go get me a pint of liquor. Go now to the store, get me one. And here you are, 20 years old. The word of God says, he that indulges in strong drink is not wise. Father, look, I just bought 2 kilos of Coke and the guy in the corner is waiting for the money. You go take it, pick it up for me and bring it back to me. I'm your daddy, son. What do you do? Is that a parent or is that just a father? Read the rest of the verse. Children, obey your parents. Where? In the Lord. That's the trick right there. Come here, son. Let's go to the club together. I'm going to teach you how to drink. Boy, you can't hold your beer? Swallow it. Why are you coughing on this cigarette? Be a man. Smoke it and put a cough it. Is this a father or a parent? Boy, you're 20 now. How many kids you got? You time it up, little boy, you know. All them girls, you knock them up. Use them. Are you a father or a parent? There's a difference. You know, I've seen fathers show up only at graduations. The mother brought the kid up for 18 years. And on graduation day, he comes up with tie on, sitting down up front, and mad that they don't recognize him. You're not a parent. What are you doing here? Looking for credit for things you never did. You're not a parent. What are you doing here? This is for parents. Getting quiet, eh? And somebody said, well, you know, that he's the father. He should come. No. Sit in the lobby until we finish. And don't take no picture with this son of mine. You are not a parent. You are a father. Where were you? The court's been looking for you for years to pay your alimony, and now you want to come stand next to this daughter in a robe? Get away from here. You are not a parent. You are a sperm donor. You are not in the Lord. Parents are those who instruct you in the things of the Lord. Here's another verse I thought I'd give you before you cry. Galatians chapter 3 verse 20 says, children, watch this repeating, obey what? Your parents in everything, for this is pleasing to who? The Lord. It didn't say obey your father in everything or your mother in everything. It says obey your parents. The one who's been with you all day, all night for 20, 30 years, that's your parent. The one who was there to weep with you and clean you and pay things for you and go to school with you and do your homework with you and who weep on your shoulder with you and deal with your issues, that's your parent. Any old dog could have a puppy. Most of them do. It takes a parent to whip a child. And yet God says to honor your father. I thought it'd be helpful to show you what honor means, because then it'll give you a little bit of freedom from your guilt. Look at verse 21. It says, fathers, do not embitter your children. Look at verse 20. Children, obey your parents. Look at verse 21. Fathers, do not embitter your children. Look at verse 20. Children, obey your parents. Verse 21. Fathers, don't embitter your children. Two different persons altogether. Your King James Version says, do not provoke. Parents deserve obedience. Fathers could provoke. Provoke means you are inconsistent, double standard. You say one thing and do something else. You tell me don't do what you do. You're confusing me. That's provoking a child. Boy, I curse, but you don't curse, okay? You're too young to curse right now. You're provoking a child. God says honor. Listen, here's why God says to honor. Write this down. The most important component of human family is fatherhood. That's the most important component. As a matter of fact, number 2 goes a little deeper. So go the fathers, so go the family, the community, and the nation. I think we've proven that from the scientific research we read. Whatever happens to the fathers, that's what happens to the country. You are exactly what your father made you, whether he was absent or not. And most of it is his absence is what made you even worse. And by the way, let me say this quickly. Females need their fathers more than males. God somehow has a strange connection between a woman and her father that no man can understand. This is why the average woman makes bad decisions, because her father wasn't there to give her her sense of balance. Most women are afraid of men, don't trust men, suspicious, because their father didn't build into them a confidence that helps them to identify a good man, so they're afraid of men. Number 3, dad is destiny. That's the words that Time magazine uses for that whole article. In other words, whoever the dad is, that's the destiny of the country. The highest honor placed on the male is the title of father. God never calls a female father. And why is it the most amazing title? Because God has the same title himself. God places the highest honor on the human by giving the male the same title he has, and that's the male of father. And therefore we have to figure out what is a father. If father is so important to God, he gave it to you as man. Let's see what it means. The word father, what does it mean? Write it down. It's from the word Abba or Pater in the Greek. Hebrew is Abba, and it means, write this down please, source, nourisher, sustainer, provider, protector, progenitor, founder, author, and maker. Very important list. Abba means source, sustainer, nourisher, protector, progenitor, progeneration. Genes means the genetic coding. It comes from the father. The source of your genes is from your daddy. If you don't know who your father is, you are still carrying him in your bloodstream. The major genetic makeup of your life comes from your father. He's the progenitor. He is the source. And therefore the father is the foundation. I love that one. This word founder or foundation, source, is what father means. Now why is this important to us? Please write fast. Why honor your father? Write this down, because father, first of all, is the foundation. Number 2, father is the root. Number 3, father is the source. And number 4, father is the genetic pool. Very important. Writing too slow. What is the father? Say it together. The foundation. What else? The root. What else? The source. What else? Genetic pool. Say it again. What is the father? the foundation, that's what it means, the root, the source, and the genetic pool. God says honor that. Now why should we honor that? I thought it'd be helpful to you to also understand what honor means. You see, the tree is only as good as its root. Number two, the house is only as valuable as its foundation. Number three, the quality of an offspring is determined by its genetic source. Number four, the condition of the root affects the life of a plant. Do you know it doesn't matter how nice a plant looks, if that root is rotten, it's just a matter of time. Leaves do not determine the life of a plant. A chandelier does not determine the value of a house. Every contractor in this room will tell you that the moment they find a defect in your foundation, the government itself condemns the house. You can have expensive furniture and bone china in that place, but they say you can't live here anymore. This goes against the code of standard. Please write this down. The strength of the foundation affects the value of the house. God says, look, you got to protect the foundation, honor the foundation, you got to respect the foundation. Why? Because it's your life. Hating your father is like using a machete to cut your feet off at the knees yourself. Hating your mother is like cutting your own feet off for nothing to walk on. It's your foundation. You know, fathers are so important that I thought we should take a look at the impact of fathers, the effects of a father. Number one, a rotten root destroys the tree. Am I right? Am I right? Am I right? No matter how big a tree is, once the root takes rot, no matter how much we advertise on CNN, it's better in the Bahamas. Come visit us. This is where God lives. If you don't get the father sorted out, the beautiful beaches will be filled with people stealing tourist money from the beach. If you don't get the father sorted out, when the tourist leaves their bag with their money in the room and they go to the beach to swim, there's some Bahamian who didn't have a good father who was digging in that bag, taking that tourist money. Now don't tell me that doesn't happen. In other words, no matter how beautiful the tree looks, the ocean, the sky, the sand, if we don't get the honor back into the fathers, the rot is at the bottom. There are some beautiful women in the Bahamas, you know that? You're sitting next to one right now. They are beautiful ladies. But they got some stories that blow your mind about a man. They dress up nice. Women dress up nice. They spend $200 on their head, $500 on their feet. They go to New York to buy a dress, and they tip around in high heels that I could never balance in. And when you see them, they look so nice, but just ask them about the man they know. See, the tree looks nice, but there's a rot somewhere. They carry this burden, this secret hurt. Man, listen, you need to get back to the bottom of the house. You're not the head of the house, you're the foundation. You have to carry this family again. And it might mean repenting today. I'm sorry. I was a national security risk. I wasn't just violating my family, I was destroying my country. You show me that if I'm going to build a country, I must get my life together. Forgive me, God will forgive you today. Honor. Number two, a cracked or defective foundation condemns the house. That's why God said you got to get that foundation sorted out. Honor it, respect it. Number three, watering the root gives life to the plant. Isn't it amazing that you never water the leaves? Why am I saying this? You know, governments in all countries spend more money on women than men. They invest in women. In our country especially, you know, we got programs with women, programs that in this crisis center, that crisis. How come there's no male crisis center? How come there's no program to have men become proficient in marriages and relationships? Why can't the government have some programs that can be sponsored by the government to focus on the men? The average man in here, for example, never learned sex from his father. He learned from a dirty book in the bathroom with a friend. And so he walks away with a distorted perception of sex. And whatever he saw in that CD or whatever he read in that book, he wants his wife to do when he gets married. And the woman is saying, where did you get this idea from? The root needs to be watered. I came here not to condemn the man. Listen, man, I can't correct you first until we understand the problem. So I'm not attacking you. I want to see how important you are, that you cannot jive around anymore because your whole life can destroy the country. This is a national development issue. We must be faithful for the sake of the nation. Water me, Lord. Come on, man, say it. Water me, Lord. Say it again. Water me, Lord. Thank God for real men. They're committed to helping men. Write down number 4, please. Fertilizing the root gives health to the plant. You don't fertilize leaves. Once you get the root fertilized, it ends up in the plants. It ends up in the leaves. It ends up in the fruit. So when you get the root sorted out, then you will see the plant flourishing. Number 4, respect the foundation. Because when you respect the foundation, you protect the house. This is why they spend so much money on foundations when they're building a house. Because the foundation determines the house. More money is spent on foundations than the whole house. Because you got to make sure the house can be carried by that weight of that foundation, and the foundation must be structured to handle the weight. God says, honor the foundation. Now let me just ease up a little bit of the men. And let me give women some suggestions. When you protect the root, you secure the plant. So the first thing a woman should do is start praying for her husband right now. I'm talking for the next 20 years, every day you pray for the root. Pray for the foundation. You pray, pour oil on the pillar in the name of Jesus. Do something. Pray for that root. Please don't do that, it doesn't make sense. But anyhow, pray. Pray for you. The Bible says a good woman is a hedge to her husband. She builds a hedge around him. Because if he doesn't make it, you won't make it. Every divorced woman in this room, what I'm talking about, it messes up your life. You give your life to someone 100% and they distrustfully misuse it. That's a hurtful thing. What's the role of a father? First of all, the father holds the family to its source. This is very important. Write this down. You know, a root, no matter how big a tree is, the root holds it to the soil. Isn't that amazing? No matter how massive a tree is, it comes right back down to the root. No matter how wide the limbs may spread, they all come right back down to the root. No matter how long the vines grow, it always comes back down to the little root. The root holds the whole family together. So if you destroy the root, then all the vines may be green for a few years, but they eventually shrivel up because the source holds the root to the source. Number 2, the father anchors the family to the rock. You know, the root anchors the plant to the soil. The foundation anchors the house to the rock. Without the foundation, the root, the house can be blown away or the tree can be broken off. This is why the foundation must be honored. Number 3, the father receives nutrients for the health of the family. Men, listen carefully. All the nutrients in the plant has to come from the root. And the root must be attached to good soil. So a good father is always getting fresh nutrients from God to feed his family. This is why a man who doesn't study the word and spend time with God is a danger to the whole community. Your family is only as spiritual as you are, sir. You are the nutrient conductor. You are the one who feeds the family advice, good ideas, counsel, information, revelation. You're the one that come up with confidence and security for them. You hold that whole thing together. And a father is bigger than just a title. Look at number 4. The father provides life for the plant. It's amazing that water comes through the root and goes to all the shoots because the water comes through the root. This is the father's sourcing the whole family. Number 5, the father guarantees fruitfulness of the family. You destroy a root, the fruits will never come forward. The gifts in your children, the unique potential of your kids are tied to you as a father. You know, I'm so impressed by Brother Dr. Kendall Major here today. He was the first, what? Periodontist, that's a big word. He's the first Bahamian periodontist in the history of the Bahamas. Give him a hand. Now notice, how old were you when you went off to school? 16? How old are you now? 47. How many years that is? 20? No, that's 31. This is my calculator right here. Okay, look at me. Stand up a minute. I want to remember. Stand up, Dad. Okay, this is father. 31 years ago, listen to me now, he wanted to go off to school to study something no one ever studied in the Bahamas. His father believed in him, encouraged him to go. Do you know what he remembers 31 years? The kiss. That was water, that was nutrient. He still remembers, he kissed me. He took a kiss to school. It was like fertilizer to the man's soul. This young man needed to know, Daddy's behind me. And he didn't just say, go son, I love you. He kissed him. He felt nutrients. That's a good father. You should be proud. You did well. You brought into this country the first periodontist. You are a good daddy. Thank you for blessing our country. You see how powerful a father is? He gave the whole country the first periodontist. Give God a hand for a good father. Thank you very much. You know, a few times I called Dr. Major, and I hope I'm allowed to say this because I just want to use an example. I would call him a few times, to talk with him, and he would say, can I see you today? He'd say, no, I'm in Orlando or I'm somewhere else. And I'd say, what you doing there? He says, my son is having a basketball game. I said, what? And I hang the phone up and I weep. Because his son is not a part of his present marriage. But he knows. He said me one time, my son is at a tender age right now. A teenager, where he needs to see me constantly with him. He needs to feel that kiss that my father gave me. In other words, I'm not just a father, I'm a parent. Give God a hand. I have to make sure that he gets that kiss. Can you kiss your child? My son is here today. Charo, stand up. That's my son, Charo. Oh, he working in the TV department. Hi, Charo. I'm the cameraman here. My son, what a blessing he is to me. We hugged 2 days ago at the airport. Just hugged each other. Still kiss my son. He's 25 years old. Why? You never outgrow being a father. You know the Bible says, when you see Jesus, kiss the Son, and you love the Father. He that hates me says hates my Father. He that loves me loves my Father. Can you hug a child today and say, I'm the missing father? There are kids in the children's church who have no daddy today because they've been abandoned, and the fruit will never come out. Look at the fruit that came out of this man. He is the first periodontalist in the Bible. What a fruit. But a good father says, son, I ain't got a lot of money, but here's a kiss. I'm with you. It doesn't take money. It takes care, love, touch, encouraging words. Write this down, please. Number 6. The father protects the family in times of crisis. Do you know that your house is only as strong as the foundation? Or let's put it this way, your tree is only able to handle the hurricane because of the root. How many of you ever seen them big trees that was around for a little while, then a hurricane knocked it over, and you realize the root was there, but it was just on the surface? Some men are just surface men. They look big, they look heavy, they look cool, but they ain't got no depth. And one little problem comes, they lose a house, they lose a job, they collapse. You are supposed to hold the family together. When you lose your job and the hotel closed down, the baby still don't make it. Lost all your money, the business falls up, you say, God, that's okay. I'm going to stay with my family. I'm going to hold this thing together. Why? I am the root. I handle crisis. That's what men's supposed to be. They're supposed to be strong to hold the family under pressure. I'm amazed at some men. They marry a woman who was doing just fine without them. And she was doing fine without them. And then they got married to her and wrecked her life. And then when she had 3 kids, they start complaining. Woman, you have all these kids for me. You're trying to kill me. Let me say it slowly. Woman, you have all these kids for me. You're trying to kill me. All this pressure, all this problem. I gotta buy food and pampers, and lady, I wish I'd never married you. Wait a minute, I'm confused. You went in her mother's house where she was sleeping in her own bed with her own refrigerator with no babies. You went and took her out of that and took her into your house. Now she's your problem. You can't handle the pressure, the crisis. You're the foundation. How that song go? You gotta put a ring on it. Put a ring. How'd that go? Some of y'all saints know how that go. What's that? No. There's another one. What is it? Come on, don't act so holy. What's it? You know it. I know you know it. You don't know it? What's that? Yeah, how'd go? I know you folks from Ron Loose folks know this. How'd go? Come on. You remember how'd go? Say what? Ah, that's it. You got it with that hat on. Yes, I put the camera on her. I thought she was saved, but she ain't saved completely. That's my daughter. She said, if you want it, you should have put a ring on it. That's it. If you like it, you should have put a ring on it. Yeah. Did I say that? Beyonce, come to church in the Bahamas next time you come, okay? No ring, no ting. If you want it, you should have put a ring on it. And if you put a ring on it, you want it. That's another song you need to write. If you put a ring on it, you want it. You take care of that, you pay the bills, you handle that, you pay for everything. If you don't want it, don't put a ring on it. But you put a ring on it, you want it. You got it. You got to keep it. You've got to have a responsibility. That's what a father does. All right, let me just ask you to write this one down. The father works behind and under the scenes. This is very important. Roots are never seen, but they're holding everything together. A real father doesn't brag about what he does. He just gives the evidence of it. A real father doesn't remind the kids what he's doing for them. Why? He's supposed to do it. A real father doesn't throw in his wife's face how many times he paid the rent. Oh Lord, have mercy now. Throw your chair at me. I will catch it, throw it back at you. Listen. You are not supposed to be on top of the soil bragging. You're supposed to be under the soil holding this whole thing together. My father and mother are amazing. 11 children we have. 11. Lord have mercy. And you know, my sister here, my elder sister here, she's about 16 years old. And you know, she would tell you, we have never gone hungry. Never went without some pair of food, shoes to wear. Never had, go naked. And I'm thinking, only my father was working. My father's a miracle worker. And he never once, did he ever, Sheila? He never told us what he did for us. Never. Has he? Never. Never. He just, we found food on the table, uniform for school, lights are on, shoes with cardboard in it. Well, at least he had shoe to put cardboard in it. And he had 11 of us to feed, and not a one has turned out rotten. And he never talked about it. That's the mystery. He never told us once what he was doing to us. That's a father. So I told my father 4 years ago, I said, you're not working anymore. You don't need no insurance. So I bought him a car. I tell him anytime you need to get something, you call me. You ain't ever gonna work again. Let me tell you why. Because he never told me what he did for me. Roots don't talk to leaves. I holding you all down here, you know. You're lucky I'm hanging on down here, holding you all down. You never take a photograph of the foundation, do you? We don't even see it. We hear it, we never saw it. It is buried, but it's holding the whole thing together. Give God a hand for the real fathers. They hold it together. Luke chapter 3, the verse you never saw before. It says, verse 36, Shem is the son of Noah, the son of Lamech, the son of Methuselah, the son of Enosh or Enoch, the son of Jared, the son of Malalel, the son of Canaan, the son of Enosh, the son of Seth, the son of Adam, who is the son of God. Adam and the Father. God is always in the background, isn't he? Do you know how you made it here this morning? Through the traffic? Or not air flight you came on? There's a Father behind you quietly. He's guiding your steps. Do you know you got a house to sleep in or a hotel room to sleep in? Do you know why? There's someone in secret. Do you know how you made it through an accident? You still trying to figure out how you came out of that accident? There was a Father. He doesn't brag. The Bible says the eyes of the Lord go to and fro the earth, looking upon the righteous. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He leads me in the path of righteousness. But then say, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Why? I tell you why. Because he got two guys behind me, goodness and mercy. And they don't even talk. They just handle things. Why? A real father takes care of business and doesn't brag about it. That's why we honor the Father. For the ladies, Jesus said about his daddy, be perfect like your Father in heaven is perfect. Men, that's our challenge, to be like the Father in heaven. He says, all things have been committed to me by my Father. No one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and those to whom the Son choose to reveal him. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop right now. I'm going to continue the teaching next week because it's too important. Because the more I study Jesus' role to his Father, the more I realize that us men need to be just like our Heavenly Father. When I was researching this stuff, I found myself, I flew all day yesterday to get home, and I normally work on my teachings, 2 or 3 weeks ahead. And I had to go back to my notes last night after that long flight. I went to bed 2 a.m. My wife would tell you last night. I was up because I got back into this thing about Jesus and his Father. And I realized that everything his Father was to him is what I must be to my children. He says, all things have been committed to me by who? My Father. Do you know what that means? If you are a good father, you should have something to commit to your children. Some fathers been working for 20 years and ain't got nothing to give their kids. Nothing to show. Then he says, no one knows me except my Father. How well does your Father know you? Some of you don't even know your daddy because he's not around. Jesus says, my Father knows me. Your Father's supposed to know their children. I know what that one is like. I know what she's like. I know what he's like. I know my kids. And therefore I know what they can handle, what they can't handle, what's best for them. Father's supposed to know. Do you know? Have you spent time with your son to know him? How about your daughter? Have you spent time with your daughter to know her? My son now works as an executive in a company. We have a family company we started. And I watch him make decisions the last few weeks. And I'm like, gosh, I did a good job. Then I might say, what do you think about that? And he'd give a good decision. He knows me. He makes decisions in my absence now because he knows what my daddy is like. Do your children know you as a father? Have you spent time alone with them? Do you let them talk to you? I'm talking about deep feelings. Do you let your son talk to you about sex? About your feeling to his feelings toward a young girl? What does he feel? Do you let your daughter talk to you about her menstruation, how it upsets her? Or is that too deep for you as a father? My Father knows me, he says. Do you know your children? How many of you young people, your father really knows you? Does he know your friends? Do your friends come to the house, inside the house, so the father can know your friends? Or do you keep your friends outside because you know that he won't agree with them? Fathers, do you know who your children go with? Do you know your children? My Father knows me, Jesus says. And then he says, and I know my Father. Do you know your daddy? And you can actually tell people about him. Look at this. He says, and I will tell those about him who I choose to tell about him. Do you know good things with your daddy? You can tell everybody about your daddy. Some of the memories are so good. You don't want no one to ever talk about your daddy. Listen, remember that the ideal should never be replaced by the ordeal. We honor the fathers here today, but let's make sure we keep building our nation. Let's keep building our nation. Jesus got his identity from his Father. He got his work from his Father. He says, I work because my Father works. I remember when my son graduated. It's just a personal story. My son sent out resumes all over the area, New Jersey, New York. That's where he was in school. Graduated with a master's degree in business administration. Sharp young man. And then I sent to all my friends in my internet bank, I sent them a letter saying, look, if you can find a job for my son, you're my friend, you help me out. I got a bunch of good friends. And as soon as I sent a letter out, that's when the crisis hit. So everybody was shutting down on hiring. And about 3 months went by. My son is up there living in an apartment, nothing to do because he's trying to find a job. And I'm sitting down one day, reading an email from one of my best friends in the ministry saying, I'm looking for a job for your son. I'll get back to you when I find something. And I heard a voice in my room in the office. The voice says, why don't you hire him? Never crossed my mind. And then the Lord showed me something. He said, whoever your son works for, he's building their empire. Let me say it again, because Behemoth needs revelation. He said, whoever your son works for, he's making them rich. He's building their empire. Same energy, same knowledge. He says, and you educated him. And you paid for the education to make someone else rich. I sat in my office, I started to weep. I said, God, I'm sorry, I never thought about it. He said, call your son and tell him to come home. Incorporate your business and put him in charge. My mind went on the Kellys, the Solomons, the Knowles. What was the other one? The Roberts, the Albreys. You go check them out and see who's up in the office running things. They educate their sons to work with them. Why? Jesus says, my Father is always working and I work. And I came to work the works of my Father. Are you building something that your son and daughter could run? Why should they work for someone else when they can come into your own work? When my son and I designed a business card, he said, Dad, what do you want to put on it? It took me 2 seconds. I said, put on it this: building a legacy for life. You can build other people's legacies. Build your own. He doesn't work for this ministry because I don't want anyone to say that I'm feeding my kids of this ministry. But I want you to start instilling in your children now as a father. Your father works, son, you can work. The only person of African descent who really got the message in the Bahamas was Milo B. Butler and Sons. And the second one is Myles, Munroe, and no, I'm just kidding. In other words, you need to understand as a father that you have to provide a space for your children to work with you. And I say to you young people, work with your parents. Because some of you got all sorts of issues in your head. Say, I don't want to do what my daddy did. Listen, who else are you going to make rich? If your parents own a business, you tell them, I want to get in there. I want to help you. I want to learn what you know. Why? Because when you move on, I'm going to make it bigger. That's what Jesus did for his Father. He said, I came to complete the work the Father gave me to do. And as the Father sent me, so send I you. Who do you think he hired when he left the earth? He gave it to the sons. We are now responsible for winning the earth for Christ. That's why we have to honor fathers. Next week, I'm going to show you that honoring doesn't mean to love. It means to respect. It means to esteem. It means to encourage. It means to lift up. It means to magnify. Some of you may not like the Prime Minister of our country personally, but you got to respect him. In other words, respect has to do with position, not personality. Your father may have been the most unpredictable man, the most troubling personality, but the Bible says once he's in that position, he's your father. It says, honor him. May not obey, you don't have to obey the Prime Minister, but you got to honor the position. Man, my encouragement is, please deserve it. And today, what you heard is just 10% of what we're going to talk about. So next week, I want you to come and get part 2. But take this session today, get a copy of it, and give it to someone you love. Men, listen to this again. Because this has been incubating in me for the last 3 years. And for the last 4 weeks, I've been working on this. And the Lord says, this is the most important part of nation building, is the man. That's why, if I was Satan, I would go after the man. Because once I destroy the man, the house is no good. So when Eve ate the fruit, nothing happened. When Eve swallowed the fruit, nothing happened. Because she was just the walls. But the Bible says when she took it to her husband, and he bit it, it says immediately, their eyes were open, and they were guilty. I pray for every man here today, that you would give the apple back to the woman and ask her where she got it from. And when you find out who spoke to her, go get him and beat him sick. His name is Lucifer. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless you.
Thank you once again for listening to this message. As we